Hooey! Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or good night, depending on when or where you're watching this from. Welcome back to the channel. We're gonna do a different tier maker thing today. I actually had to go and build this one myself because none of the current ones were actually, well, they weren't up to date. So what we're going to be doing today is you've seen the title of the video. You can tell by the little thumbnails down below. We are going to be ranking the Digimon animated series from Adventure 99 right up until Adventure 2020. Um, so a couple of things to go over, just a bit of housekeeping before we start. This is my tier list and my tier list only. I'm not saying this is an example you should follow. What you like is what you like, and I'm not trying to undermine that. If for some reason Adventure 2020 is your S tier series, power to you. I might not agree, but it's all good. Secondary, in relation to Digimon Cross Wars, there are three separate options for it. There is Digimon Cross Wars Arc 1, Digimon Cross Wars Arc 2, which I wanted to bundle together simply because they both feature the same protagonists. And then you have Digimon Cross Wars Arc 3, The Young Hunters, which, because it features a new protagonist introduced into the mix, I think warranted its own option. But there are people who like Arc 2 more than Arc 1, and especially since it has its own subtitle, I thought maybe, okay, we'll treat it as its own season for the intents and purposes of this. So, um, it's just really just sort of to give options. So, but we'll touch on that as we go. So, I guess we'll start. We'll go back to the beginning, as Kokomon would say, or Wendigomon. They never did get his name right in that movie, did they? So we'll start with Digimon Adventure Classic. So Digimon Adventure 99, and it's a B. Right off the bat, Digimon Adventure 99 is a B. It is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers of the franchise. It's the one everybody has the nostalgia for. It's why Adventure 2020 gets a lot of free passes on stuff people complained about in Cross Wars and Applemon. It's the one that most of the fan base grew up on, and the one that Toei and Bandai. It's the fan base that those companies pander to the most with current developments in the franchise. So overall, like, the story about seven young kids who go to camp for the summer and wind up living in a digital land where everybody gets to meet his own Digimonster, a digital companion, and digital friend. Uh, you know, it's fun. The different character interactions, characters learning to breathe and grow and develop as the show goes on, changes in personality, growth, development, maybe a few too many filler arcs in the whole looking for the tags and crests, and then another arc to activate those crests. Maybe there's a little bit too much filler in it, but it's the OG. It's still fun to watch. um, I wouldn't mind going back and doing a review series on this once Adventure 2020 wraps up. But yeah, but it is just a B tier. It does have its own share of problems. It's by no means perfect. Looking back on it, some of the villains leave a lot to be desired. I'm looking at you, Vamdemon or Myotismon. Um, Myotismon isn't that great a villain. If you go back and look, he's really not. He's actually defeated by his own hubris more often than the kids actually having a plan or strategy to get by his latest threat. He's very just he's a very mustache twirling villain, and I think he just has a lot of popularity because of the arc he was in and the whole thing about looking for Kari and the death of Wizardmon and Anjuwamon's descent, transforming into Venom Myotismon, or Venom Vamdemon if you prefer, you know. And then Zero Two, sort of doubles down on a lot of that. So yeah, like it's a fun little show. It brought us all here. That this show is why we are where we are at the moment. But I think other shows have come, other shows have done better, and certainly other shows have done worse, even within this show's own continuity. So yeah. So on that, um, Digimon Adventure 02 or 2002. It's a C. I Digimon Adventure 2002 or 02 Season 2 was good up until, for me anyway, it was good up until Ken was defeated. And after that, the show really lost a lot of its direction. It didn't know what it wanted to do. You had all that stuff with the Destiny Stones, you had the arbitrary reasoning for why the original kids couldn't evolve to perfect and mega level. Uh, the stuff with the holy beasts, Black War Greymon can die in a fire. I never, if 02 gets rebooted, I never want to see him in it. Um, yeah, like Digimon DNA, Black Tower structure combination things. It's 02, 02 had a very defined narrative for those first, what, 26 episodes, so the first half of the show. And then as soon as Ken was defeated, they really didn't know what direction they wanted to go in, and it really tells. A lot of the back half of 02 feels like filler while they're trying to get to a point, and they fail on that more often than they succeed, in my opinion. 02 had a clear villain. You know, it took the idea of having a Digidestin that you fight against. It was very, very well structured and paced and thought out. And whatever your feelings on characters like Daisuke and Iori, I'm personally not a fan. If I had to rank characters, those two in particular would be on my bottom rung. But at least the show was cohesive and still had that sort of Narm charm that the original show has, right? Zero Two has a lot of that same Narm charm that the original show had up until Ken's beaten. And then it just you can you can watch it fall apart, like when Thanos does the snap and everybody sort of flakes out or becomes ash. You can actually see that happen along the course of Zero Two as it's happening. So you might disagree with me, perfectly fine, but again, these are just one person's opinions. So moving on then, Digimon Tamers, and God, yeah, today. Um, Neon Genesis Evangelion with a Digimon twist, effectively. Um, it's such a good show. A more grounded and realistic take. The first two series are part of a franchise within the universe of the third show, at least in the dub. My memory is a bit hazy on whether that follows through in the sub version. But, you know, a, a gogglehead who, was a bit more sensitive and a bit more restrained. He creates his own partner, and the adventures that takes him on, trying to hide Digimon from your family, um, which is something that the original shows did, yes, but I think um, Tamers takes it to like a much more believable level than anything Zero Two or anything Season 1 or 2 ever did. Like if you've got a giant red pet dinosaur in your room, putting it in a raincoat and hat isn't going to you know defer your parents' attention away from it and make them think it's just a person. But then, you've got the story, you've got the whole Leomon thing, you've got Impmon's character growth and development, and his lust for power, and the moral event horizons that brings him to, um, the stuff with Ruki and her parents. It's Terry and not Terry, Henry. I can never say his Japanese name or Chinese name actually. Um, so we'll just refer to him as Henry. That the whole thing with his relationship with his sister and just all that stuff. Tamers is just so good. Um, and no one ever feels like they're a third wheel or they're playing second fiddle to the main character, which is always very important. And you know, season season one had a nice balance of that, where for the most part everything, levels and screen time and such were distributed evenly. But Tamers just does just such a better job of it that it's an A rank show. And I don't think anyone would disagree unless it's an S tier for you. Um, so, on the other side of that coin, though, we have Digimon Frontier, Season 4, and it's a D. Um, Digimon Frontier has a lot of the problems that I associate with Digimon Adventure 2020, where the only two characters that are important are the dinosaur and the wolf character. Um, the only female character in the show loses in her own evolution episode, and it's played as more of a joke than Lilymon getting one shot by Vamdemon in season one. Um, there's some really nice concepts in there. The idea of ancient Digimon and um, the 10 warriors, and this clash of those warriors, as some are being used for evil, and then the kids inherit the spirits of the ones for good. But unless your name was Takuya or Koji, you just did not matter in this show. And sorry, I just haven't been able to shift this cold, so I just had to cough real quick there. Um, Unless your name is Takuya or Koji, you just do not matter in this show. This show does not care about you. You don't get all the new power ups. You don't get a majority of the screen time. You don't even get an equal share of the screen time, never mind a majority. Um, and then there was the whole thing with the Royal Knights, who, I love Roto Knightmon and Dunasmon in this show, but by God, do they overstay their welcome. When your show consists of your main characters getting their asses handed to them for what feels like 50% of the show, genuinely feels, it's probably not. It's probably a much smaller number. But it really does feel like they just get their asses handed to them for 50% of the show. And that in turn doesn't give you any reason to cheer for them or to care. They're not underdogs, they're just awful, you know? Um, yeah, no, Frontier, you know, uh, I know, like the evolution gimmick, I don't mind it. It was the Super Sentai season, and I don't mind that. I actually think that's a very interesting concept, but I don't think they did enough with it. Um, But yeah, good lord, it's just the cast is awful. And if any show deserves a reboot or a second chance at getting the story right and just giving these characters a new breath of fresh, just giving these characters a new lease on life and a chance to make up for the original show, it was this. Adventure didn't need a reboot. This sorely did. Um, and I don't think that will ever happen because the original show did so badly it doesn't sell the merch, where Adventure, gets all the preferential treatment. But we're not here to rag on Adventure 2020 too much, or Adventure in general. It's just my perspective on things, on why I don't think we'll see. Um, I don't think we'll ever see a sequel to Tamers or a reboot of Frontier or anything like that. I do hope to be proven wrong in the future, though. Moving on from that, then, Digimon Savers. A. Oh god, yeah, it's an A. Yes, it is. Don't start with me there. I see you in the comment section there typing furiously away. Uh, okay, so Digimon Savers. Admittedly, there is a lot of bias going into this. A lot. Right, but I am very welcoming of the flaws that this show has, and I do call this show out for its flaws as they happen. The main character bias does fall on Masaru quite a bit. However, the other characters never feel like they are lesser characters as a result of it. The story revolves around Masaru and his involvement with the Digital Accident Tactics Squad, who were basically like the Men in Black, but for Digimon. Right. It revolves around him and his involvement and how that leads into his missing father's involvement with the organization later on. But you have the cast of Yoshino, who is Yoshino's amazing. Yoshino is probably the best female character we've had since Rookie after from that point. Um, we'll touch on a female character done much better later on, but Yoshino is a great character. Toma, is so much like his color palette is very Yamato. He's blonde. He wears a lot of green. He's got the wolf to go against the main character's dinosaur. So he is that character and very Yamato reminiscent in his design. But in terms of personality, he's the brains of the operation. He's Koshiro on a higher scale. Um, but even like each of these characters, you learn about their families, you learn about their backstories, you learn about the position, how they got themselves into the situations that we find them in. Ikto or Keenan, if you prefer the dub name, um, him having been, he's basically been raised by Digimon. Um, his whole life due to an accident that got him pulled into the digital world. I don't necessarily like that resulted in the tropey Tarzan broken speech, especially since we've seen in every show that Digimon are very cognitive and can speak fluently. So Icto growing up with a broken me am a speech pattern in both the English and the Japanese versions, that doesn't work for me so much. But it's it's new, it's different. He's very feral and tribal and sort of has to learn to get along with the others. Um, and his Falcomon is just amazing. So, yeah, look, I've a lot of love. It was the series, it was the first time since Frontier that a Digimon show had aired. When Frontier happened, the franchise went on hiatus and was revived then with Digimon Savers. And I've a lot of love for it for that. It's a lot more grown up. It's a lot more shonen. Um, the main character got an Agumon so that there would be a connection to the rest of the franchise, and people could go, "Oh, I remember that character." And that's a case of using an Agumon done right, especially since we hadn't seen Agumon really since 2002 at that stage. That's a case of using an Agumon done right, as where with recent video games and such, I feel like they're just giving it because reasons. Um, but that I think that's a case of giving a main character the same Digimon as a previous main character, but it does enough of a personality and it's a different subspecies of that Digimon that it's different enough. And then in terms of the villains, this is the only show with a genuinely evil human villain, unlike Ken or Oikawa in season two, who were corrupted by black spores or had Vamdaemon living inside them. Karada was just he was just evil. Like he just wanted mass genocide of Digimon in general because they did him a frighten on an expedition into the digital world, and it turned him into a raving lunatic. He also seems to have ties or be based a lot on Analog Man from Digimon World 1, so I can't go wrong with that. And then and similar to season two, where you had an evil Digidestined, Kurata in turn created his own um, chosen children to fight against the main cast. And yeah, no, it was really good. But on top of that, everybody got to mega level. Everybody got to the burst mode, which was beyond the mega level. Nobody ever got, nobody ever felt lesser. Everybody got equal evolutions and power ups and things. The only difference being the main character, who his Agumon got a power up mode in the very last episode. Um, which by then it was too late to do anything. But generally, it isn't a case where where the main characters, the wolf and dinosaur, get to mega level and everybody else is stuck on ultimate or perfect or something. Um, there was a lot more even distribution of powers and a lot of characterization and development to go along with that. So yeah, so that's enough rambling on Savers. Let's move on then to Digimon Cross Wars. Oh boy. Um, where Frontier was the Super Sentai season, this was the Super Robot season. And I think it's a C. I think Cross Wars season one, I love Cross Wars. I genuinely do. But it has a lot of problems. I don't care that there's no traditional evolution systems. I like the idea of Jogress evolution or DNA digivolution basically being the only way to evolve in this show. I love that. And I thought it was a really unique way to handle things. But and I've gone on before about the Dark Knightmon in this show, the villains, Lilithmon, Blastmon, Bagramon himself. Like there's a lot of good in this show, but this is a show where there is only one main character for like 20 episodes. Taiki on the good guy side is like the only person with a partner. He's the only person that can use the Jogris. He's the only or the Digicross ability. And there are antagonistic humans like Kiriha and Nene, but and later on you, but they don't join until late into season one, if not season two. So like it does suffer from that. Like the other main characters, Akari and Zenjiro, like they are just there for moral support and comic relief in that order. And the show does kind of suffer for it because to make up for that, Taiki has to be basically he has to be superhuman almost. Like he has to be too good and too Gary Stu like. He's basically the Taiki ends up being the antithesis of Tai Chi, who at least Tai Chi in the original show had the rest of the cast to back him up and to assist in battles and such. Taiki doesn't really get to do that, so he has to be the main character, the strategist, the leader. He has to be everything at once, and it does just feel a bit too much at points. Like I totally agree with that. Um, Kiriha is the other side of the Yamato coin, where Toma in Frontier was more the stalwart and the brains, and he was just the look before you leap character. He was the lone wolf, but he wasn't a jackass about it. Kiriha was very antagonistic, but he had a Greymon. He was the lone wolf, but he had dinosaurs, which is different for this franchise. And I really like his Greymon. I think his Metal Greymon is the best one design wise. I think it when you see Metal Greymon in this show for the first time, it shows up and it just wrecks an entire battlefield by itself. And at that point, I went, "That's my favorite Metal Greymon." I don't really care for its evolution, but I think Kiriha still has the best Metal Greymon. um, Nene and Skull Nightmon or Dark Nightmon's relationship is very somber. It's very dark. It's very I've talked about before in my Adventure 2020 reviews how Dark Nightmon basically abused the partner system and the mental toll that he puts on his partner to keep to keep that going. Um, he's just maligned, he's malicious, he's cunning, he's ruthless. Dark Knightmon is such a fun villain, but his abuse of the partner system and his partner in general is very and like it's very domestic. Without getting too dark on this, it is very much a, d- a- an an analog for a domestic issue where she wants to get away but feels powerless to do so because he has this hold over her. And we find out later on what that hold is, but like it's just the little elements of that stop Cross Wars season one from just being an absolute disaster overall. Without characters like Shoutmon or Nene and Dark Knightmon's relationship, and then even like the little relationship that blossoms between Taiki and Nene as he tries to break her free of Dark Knightmon and embrace her relationship with Sparrowmon more. There's a lot of nice in it, but it doesn't do enough to make it a B. So I would say it's a high C. Like if I had to rank it between 0 2 on the C tier, I would say it's higher than 0 2 on the tier at the very least. So it's a high C, maybe it's a C plus. Um, but there is enough just there is enough wrong with the show in terms of it being very toyetic and advertising heavy. Like in a lot of the, thankfully they got rid of this as the show went on, but in the early stages of the show, when they would do the evolution sequences, the backgrounds would be filled with the trading cards or such for those Digimon. And it just felt very much like buy our stuff, like it's not even subliminal messaging. They're just putting it on screen and saying buy our stuff. And I never liked that. Never did. Even on the show's original run, I never liked that. Um, So yeah, it's a high C of a show because it is carried by the more nuanced elements of its characters, but I can see why people would be hesitant to give it a chance at the same time. I always recommend watch it for yourself and make your own opinion. Don't just go with what the internet says because you could be denying yourself a good time. Uh, so then we get to Cross War Season 2, the evil generals of the Seven Kingdoms. The the evil death generals of the Seven Kingdoms. It's such a convoluted name. It is better than Cross War Season 1 by a mile. Getting to see the different dynamics between the main villains is incredible. Um, like it's not like Pulitzer Prize storytelling or anything, but just seeing things from the villain's perspective and what makes them tick a lot more than I want to conquer the world because evil is yeah. And then it does bring back regular evolution and then ties that into the Digicross concept and such. So um, the characters like Nene and Kiriha get a lot more fleshed out. And yeah, so I think it's a B. I think it's a lesser B than Adventure 99, but yeah, you can see, but it's definitely higher on the tier than Cross Wars Season 1. So, and then we get to Cross Wars Season 2, which is a D, and I don't know, it is better than Frontier, um, but it's still a D tier show. Um, so Cross Wars Season 3 happens a year, I think. It's about a year after the main story wraps up from Cross Wars Season 1 and 2. Season 1 and 2 are cohesive. They run, you know, one directly into the other, and it's generally why I wanted to bundle them together, but because of the subtitle of the arc, I thought, well, look, if I'm going to treat Young Hunters as its own thing because of a different protagonist, I'm probably better off breaking Cross Wars down into its two individual components as well. But Cross Wars Season 3. Cross Wars Season 3 is abysmal. There are. I used to think I liked this show. Like it's half the length of a regular show. I think it's only got like 20 something episodes. And 75% of that maybe is filler. The only reason this arc gets a pass from people who haven't even watched it. And I know you haven't. I can tell by the comments on my other posts and such that that nobody watched this show. They saw the clips on YouTube and went, "This is amazing," because this is the first time that the anime establishes the multiverse. Towards the end of Cross War Season 3, there's the threat of the show is that big that they have to bring in the heroes from the previous seasons, mostly the goggleheads from the previous season. So if we're coming back to our Power Rangers analogy, it's the Forever Red episode of Digimon. Um, Other characters do make cameos, but it's not worth much. Like Mimi pairs up with Ruki, but only Ruki gets like two lines. Other characters are just seen in silhouette, and others are just silent. Even when they play other characters in the same show, it's oh yeah. Um, but it is nice to see like 99 Taichi interact with 02 Daisuke or interact with Takato and like Takato and Takuya, um, you know, to interact. Like it's nice to see on screen, and it makes no sense whatsoever if you try to work it into the previous show's own continuities. Um, but it's pure fan service, and that's why Cross War Season 3 gets a pass. But taking that away, because that is only like the last 3 episodes of the show. But if you take that away, you get a main character who is worse than Daisuke. Like he's worse. Takeru is probably my least favorite protagonist. Um, and that's why I don't know if I want to bring if I want to make Cross War Season 3 dead last or second to last. Um, but Takeru, he's worse than Daisuke. He is like if you gave Daisuke catnip is really the only way I can politely describe his personality. His whole thing is is succeeding Taiki and being better than Taiki, and he's very much a creator's pet in that he's he gets all the screen time. He captures all the monsters. He even gets a red Digivice, the same color as well. It's a different shade of red from Taiki's in the original show, and this is done for two reasons. One, they didn't want to make another copy of it, right? Because they already made the red and blue one, and then the black one was given away as a competition prize. The black one is so rare. You'd be better off just buying the red or blue one and then painting it if you wanted the black crossloader, which was treated in show with the same reverence as the black Digivice. But that was before, its owner turned good and it became lilac. But they didn't so they obviously they just didn't want to produce another Digivice for this main character to sell when they could just repackage the old one. Um, but it's meant to show that he is on the same level of as the character that you went through 2 seasons with. He's not. Um, he's really not. Evolution in this show is just a thing they can do, where in the original Cross Wars it was seen as this super special thing that you had to unlock. Because evolution in Cross Wars is treated as it's treated sort of like evolution in the animal kingdom is in the real world, where Digimon can evolve, but it takes years and years and years of living and fighting and experience. Like Shoutmon in Cross Wars Season 3 is an evolved form of Shoutmon from Cross Wars 1 and 2, but it's not that he's changed into a completely different Digimon like Omega Shoutmon, um, but rather he's gotten taller and he has armor on now, and it's like his name is like Shoutmon King, you know? its evolution in the Cross Wars universe, which I do enjoy, is just a very gradual thing. The villains in season three, they aren't interesting. Quartzmon looks like a joke physically for most of the show. Um, if you compare it to even like the Death Generals from season two of Cross Wars, Olegmon was like the happy pirate. Um, you had the whole thing with oh god, what's his name? Coronamon's mega level. Uh, no, Dianamon is the moon version. Hold on, it'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. Apollomon. There we are. So, like the whole thing with Apollomon and his ties to the Death Generals and being corrupted and basically acting as the Leomon for the show. Spoilers. Um, it's just narratively not interesting. The idea of the Digimon hunt is not interesting to me. It's explained in universe why it needs to happen, but it's just not appealing to me. And it doesn't help that the characters aren't likable. None of the new characters are likable. Tagaru in particular, the new female character Iru, um, the the dark and edgy character with the Takaru looking hat, and then even the silver haired kid, who I won't get into it, but they're just not interesting. Some of their partners are great, like, and seeing how something like Psychmon can turn into Astamon, or seeing how Drachmon becomes Yashamon, or Opossumon turns into Chohakaimon. The evolution sequences are really nice and very smooth, and you sort of look at it and go, oh yeah, well, okay, that makes sense. That's how this would turn into that. But the Tamers themselves are just woeful. Um, so yeah, it's not a great show. It's not a great end. Like Cross Wars should have just finished at the end of season two and been done, but they tried to push it out. I think it was something to do with the airing schedule that they needed to put something in the time slot, so they just went, let's do this. I might need a citation on that though. Um, yeah, it's not good. Like again, watch it, make your own decisions. Just be aware, I think is it gets a pass because of the multiverse stuff, but I don't really think it earns that. Um, like the show is called The Young Hunters who leapt through time, or no, to be fair, it's the boy hunters who leapt through time. Um, but because it's not just a male cast, it gets called Young Hunters rather than Young Boy Hunters. But it just, for a show with that sort of title, it doesn't do anything with it. And like I've seen fanfics that are written better than this show. I've seen fanfics that are written better than the show. Fanfics with the same concept of having this team that has this world-ending threat, and the only thing they can do is jump through time to other continuities and recruit the help of those. Right? This could have been like Digimon, I don't know, Digimon Doctor Who or something, where you're going to different points in time and putting right what once went wrong, or a villain, has changed something on the course of history and you have to go back and undo it so things play out the way they should. And then at the end, everyone comes together, right? I understand maybe for budgetary reasons, because voice acting is expensive, they couldn't do any of that, but it would have been better than what we got. Even if it was executed poorly, it would have been better than what we got. Oh, okay, that's far too much time spent on Cross Wars. I shouldn't have to spend that much time on it. So let's move on to the next one then. Digimon Adventure Try. Oh boy. You know what? After all that, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this. I don't know if I want to put try in C or D tier. I really don't. Because try, oh, it tried, didn't it? It tried to be good. It tried all of our patience. And I think it seems to be universally despised by the fan base. Um, I don't know. It you know, the the problem is with try. You're doing a story people wanted. Or people thought they wanted. Like at the end of season two, you had the epilogue, you had the 25 years into the future, you got to see how everyone was getting on. But, people thought they wanted the build up to that. Oh, well, tell us what happens after season two. Where's you know, tell us how Taichi became a politician or how Yamato got to the moon. And it doesn't do any of that. And it completely pretends the Zero Two cast doesn't exist for 95% of it. It basically kills them off at the start in silhouette. So they don't even get a fight scene. They get killed off in silhouette and then get returned to the human world in silhouette at the very end. So like for 95% of the show, um Try pretends that the Zero Two cast doesn't exist. Um and like the first three movies, Reunion, Determination, and Confession, they're all so good. They are really good story. They have really good storytelling and a really good build up. Like the idea that Taichi has sort of reached a point with Digimon where he's sort of looking at collateral damage and going, "Is this worth it? Like, do we have to keep doing this? How long are we? How?" And there's an overrunning theme with a lot of the Digidestined in this series, Taichi, Sora, and Joe in particular, where they sort of have to look, where they're looking at this and going, okay, how much longer before it's somebody else's turn? Why is it always us? You know, they're starting to grow up. They're becoming adults. They're trying to find their path in life, and it's always Digimon battles and saving the world and looking at the damage that takes, and then the emotional strain of the Digimon always leaving when the battle is over. There was some really, really good elements to chapters 1, 2, and 3. And I like Mako. I don't think Mako is bad in theory. Um, she shares a lot of elements with Ken. Um, and I think if maybe Mako was introduced 10 years earlier and was just one of the cast, people wouldn't hate her to the extent that they do, or if her existence was even hinted at. But because Try is 6 movies or 26 episodes, depending on how you viewed it, the way it's broken down doesn't really give Mako a lot of screen time to feel naturally part of this story. She does feel shoehorned in. Um, but I do like Mako, and I like Mekumon, her partner. I still want that giant plush, similar to the Wormmon one I have. But also, and while I'm at it, thank you, Meg, again for that custom Mekumon. I absolutely love it. Um, just while we're on the topic, but she she does feel shoehorned in a lot of the case, and because the story revolves around her and her partner, less so than this being a slice of life anime that happens to involve Digimon, where we get to see how Yamato gets to the moon or some nonsense. Because they ramp the stakes up so quickly, this doesn't feel like a natural growth for these characters. And then episodes 4, 5, and 6 are really just the pity Mako show. Like they really are. And as much as I like the character, I'm not a fan of the direction it takes after Confession. So while the first three movies are really good, it does sort of fall apart in a similar way to Zero Two almost. Um, in 4, 5, and 6. Now, the great thing about episode or chapter 4 of Try in particular is it gives us a bit of backstory on something the fan base has always wanted, wanting to know about the Digidestined before Taichi and the others, and getting to see that they succeeded in failing, or failed through succeeding. They fought the Dark Masters. The Dark Masters were far too powerful for them. They couldn't cope. It didn't really, the implication seems to be that they weren't really much of a team. The evolution sequences seem to be a bit more haphazard than what we're used to. Um, like Daigo Nishijima, a pretty prominent character in Try, and Taichi's like teacher and mentor in this show is also his Digidestined senior because he was the goggle boy of the previous group. But he had a Bearmon rather than any sort of dinosaur or lizard-based Digimon that we're used to the main characters having. Um, and then seeing like that and what we do see of that cast's evolution paths seems a bit jumbled and again, as I say, haphazard compared to say like going from Palmon to Togemon to Lilymon to Rosemon, where they look more like natural progressions. These Digidestins just feel uncertain, and I think maybe that's by design because of what that leads into in terms of Maki's backstory and wanting to see her partner again because her partner is dead, and the whole thing about rebooting the digital world. And so, maybe all that isn't trying to be subtle and it's all by design, but it does just make them feel lesser. Where in the original show, they were heralded as these great heroes that stopped Apocalypse and put him behind the wall of fire or whatever. Um, but you don't get that feeling from just seeing how broken the characters like Maki and Daigo are because of what they've been through before and what that bred in terms of Maki not being able to get over the loss of her own partner. And we see Mako go through a lot of that as well, but it does feel too much like the Pity Mako show. Um, that it does bring a lot of the it does bring a lot of the narrative down for Try and sort of retroactively hurts the previous three chapters. So it's a very low C, high D story or series. So I think its placement is justified, but if someone were to put it bottom of the list, I could totally appreciate and get behind that as well. And then we move on. Ooh boy. And then we move on. Digimon Universe Apple Monster. If you've been a long time follower of this channel, you know where this is going. Is it going in D? No. Is it going in C? No. Is it going in B? No. Is it going in A? No. S. Yeah, you're damn right. Digimon Universe Apple Monster is an S rank show, and I will fight anybody on that. This series does everything the previous series did, everything, and builds on it. You have the timid, shy tamer who has his confidence issues in Haru, right? Similar to Takato. You have his very loud and overconfident partner, similar to Shoutmon, who gives Haru the backbone he needs in a lot of situations. You've got the strong female character who is juggling trying to support her family with her life as a pop idol, or not a pop, an idol. um, you have Astra, who he's a YouTuber, like he does this for a living, but his whole thing is like doing like jackass pranks and such, or spicy noodle eating contests and stuff like that. Just typical challenge fare that we all see on YouTube, right? So already these characters are a lot more grounded, right? Haru as well relies far too much on the strength of his best friend Eugen, who may or may not actually be his. Uh, it's very implied that it's his romantic interest as well. So this is the first Digimon season to tease a gay couple pairing. It's never explicitly confirmed because of the characters' ages, nor should it be because of that. But the subtext is there, and I don't know, it's very progressive in that respect. But if we look at Eri, the female character, like she's Masaru from season 5, but female. She's tough. She loves to fight. She'll punch. She'll kick. Her whole thing is if you get in her way, she's going to punch you. Like that's even her catchphrase. I'll give you an explosive punch. Like that's her catchphrase because of her idol background. And on that, like this show touches on the pressures of being an idol. It touches on like the more seedier aspects, of the idol industry in a very family-friendly nature that, obviously not to upset the idol groups and contingencies and the management and such, but it does touch on things that the idols have to go through and how they have to be seen as perfect. Um, their public perception, the fanboys, all of that stuff. And then you have Astra, who again he's a YouTuber, um, but he's also got that very Japanese responsibility of taking over the family business and becoming the next master of like his father's profession, and trying to juggle that and getting his father to not be so strict and see that what he's doing as his hobby is something he has a passion for and wants to grow and turn into a career, and him learning to have to juggle the two of those. So the family's expectations alongside his own interests and hobbies, which, if you think about, is very Sora like from season 1. Like her whole thing was, she wanted to play soccer, she was a bit of a tomboy. Her mother was very strict. She wanted her to take over the flower arranging business. And come Try and Kizuna, the more tomboyish nature of Sora has been sort of erased, and she's more into taking over the flower arranging and the whole thing of there's a whole thing in the run up to Kizuna where she's putting her first flower arrangement, her first professional flower arrangement on display at one of her mother's shows, and the strain that's putting on her relationship with Piyomon because she can't be a Digidestined, and then what we learn in Kizuna about Sora and Piyomon's ultimate fate. It is this. Like it's this, but more of a I'm speaking to you ranking these shows, and it's a little side project and a little hobby, you know. If it took off, that would be wonderful, but I still have a day job and a house and rent and bills and all that nonsense to pay. So it's a lot more grounded and a lot more realistic in terms of it being an anime, right? It's set in the future. That's nothing, right? Yeah. Been there, done that with various other franchises. Then you get into the the other depths of the show. Like it talks about the dark web and the trouble the dark web can have. Um, you know, if you just go wandering in unprepared. It talks about transhumanism, right? Very very cyberpunky almost in humans and AI and machines becoming, less separate and more connected. The dangers of AI being left unchecked. Um, humanity's reliance on technology and social media to tell it how to feel and tell it how to think about things. Very apt for one of these kind of videos, isn't it? Huh? Um, So along with like the transhumanism, the reliance on technology, AI running amok, genuine human fears, like the show is basically set up for Skynet to win. If you want to take an example from another show, it's basically set up for Skynet to win. And then as you learn about the villain, Leviathan, he's not even a Digimon, he's an AI. A rogue AI broken off from an AI program that the main character's grandpa created. And this AI broke off and killed the main character's grandfather. Spoilers, I guess. But, so this AI is trying to survive. It's trying to lure the main characters into doing a certain set of events a certain way so that it can grow in strength and continue its assimilation of the real world because humans are destroying the planet and need to be eliminated. And it's very when I see a lot of these tier lists, Applemon ends up in the D section or below. And I think it's because people just didn't watch it. Because there's a lot of good in Applemon, far beyond even what I've spoken about. Between like between the main character and his relationship with his best friend, his interactions with the other cast, how the other cast are actually treated as main characters and get screen time to breathe and grow and develop far beyond anything we've seen in previous shows. Particularly for a female character, Eri Karan is friggin' amazing. Like, she is the best written female character in the franchise, bar none. Um, and I dare anybody to tell me somebody else is better written, having watched the show. Ruki is close second, but she's still second. Um, it's Applemon is a treat. It does suffer. Now, again, look, it's not perfect. It's an S rank show, but that doesn't mean I don't have flaws with it. And I went through these during my reviews of Applemon. It has a bit too many filler arcs. There are segments of 4 or 5 episodes at a time in some cases with Applemon that you could cut out and nothing would really change. But then it also has episodes which are filler for the first 20 minutes, and then the last 5 minutes are plot related. So you can't really cut them out without losing a lot of context. And that is an issue. And that is an issue I had with Appmon as it was airing, and that is a complaint I had with Appmon as a whole. Where Appmon succeeds is in its villain, in its main characters, in its overall story, in its relationships, even with the side characters, like Haru's other crush, the girl who runs the library that they use as a secret base, or the bookstore that they use as a secret base. Even the side characters are treated with the most modicum of respect that I've never seen in any other Digimon show. If you're a side character, you're expendable. This show also gets everybody to their final forms. It doesn't, treat one character as superior than another. Um, just there's a lot of good in it, and I don't, and not enough people watched Atmon because they went, oh, well, it's not really Digimon. They are. They are just Digimon based on the applications run on your mobile devices and tablets. That's it. So where Digimon were born from the internet, Appmon, well, guess where they were born from? The same digital infrastructure, but much more advanced. Hell, Agumon even shows up for a cameo, and it's the main character's Agumon from a video game he used to play, which was a cute little nod to tie it back into the rest of the franchise, and you know, but it it did the evil human really well. It even had two of them. It did the evil human thing really well. Evolution was both a mixture of regular evolution and jogress or cross, um, which could be if which could be circumvented later, where if your initial evolution was via the nature of what would be a jogress evolution or a digicross, The next time you did it, because you'd already unlocked it, you could just go straight to that stage, which cool. Um, the only thing it didn't do was have the human element of the. Let me rephrase that. The only thing it didn't do was the element of having humans turn into monsters. Because the overall theme of the show is that humans are monsters. Um, so there's probably a lot less that it needs to do in that respect. But Appmon is my favorite series out of the lot for a reason, and I definitely think everyone should, watch it to the end and come to their own conclusions on it because there's a lot more there than, oh, well, it's not Tai Chi. And on that, good God, on that. We come to the last one. We come to the most current one. We come to the one that, as of recording, we are 37 episodes into only, out of 66. So we have 29 episodes left. Digimon Adventure 2020. It's a high D. It's a high D. Yeah. If you've been on the channel for a long time, or long enough that where I've been doing these Adventure 2020 reviews, you'll know why I feel this way already. Um, the overly focused narrative on Taichi, similar to my problems with Frontier and Young Hunters. Um, we are at time of recording, we are 37 episodes into this show, and Taichi's partner has evolved to Mega 3 times. And sorry, that's not just War Greymon showed up 3 times. That is, he got 3 different Mega levels. Metal Greymon has evolved to Machine Dramon, or Mugen Dramon if you prefer. He has evolved to War Greymon, and most recently, he has evolved to Blitz Greymon. No other character has had a Mega level yet. Yamato might be getting one this coming weekend. Might. But there is no adventure in this show. There is no. Uh, this series is just fight episode, evolution, fight episode, fight episode, fight episode, and jeez, I really hope this cold just goes away. There's no character development. There's no growth. We don't know a lot of these characters. We don't know any more about them when we started. Remember what I said about Adventure 99, where maybe too much time was taken up with looking for the tags and crests and then activating the crests, right? The what separates that here from this show, where the crests exist but just are never acknowledged. They never go, huh, what does that symbol mean? They're just there, right? And the only context you would have for them is if you've seen the original show and you know what they're supposed to represent and the traits that they embody. The difference between Adventure 99 and Adventure 2020 is those hunts for the tags and crests and activating the crests let the characters breathe. It let them grow and come into themselves as people. We learned more about their backstory, Koshiro's adoption issues, you know, Hikari. We didn't really learn about Hikari being a sick girl until she became more prominent of a character, and that was in the Dark Masters arc. But Mimi's whole thing in the castle with Shogun Gekomon, which the novel correctly fixed to be the episode where Lilymon shows up, rather than her crest not completely activating until the real world, only for Lilymon to show up, beat Dark Tyrannomon with a flower necklace, and then get one shot by Vamdemon. Um, but the characters at least got to breathe. The characters got to interact with each other on a personal level. And we got to see how the different dynamics of character interactions work. Mimi and Joe, Mimi and Izzy, Taichi and Sora, Taichi and Izzy. You know, this show, every time the characters get together, it separates them. We've had more, these characters have spent more time apart on screen than they have working together as a team. These characters really, that we've seen, these characters don't know anything about each other. They know as much as we, the audience, know. Um, but there's nothing in this show makes me think these characters are friends, other than what I've superimposed from the original timeline. And that's a problem with Adventure 2020 on the whole, is it doesn't know if it wants to advertise these characters to a new audience and bring in a new generation of fans, or if it wants to pander to the original fan base. And by pandering to the original fan base, they don't have to do anything with these characters because you've seen this already through Adventure 99. You've seen it already. It might throw in the odd evolution split from time to time, but it doesn't do anything to really make these characters feel separate from the original show. What it does is it gives Taichi all the screen time. Mimi's the best character in the show, and she's hardly in it. Um, but Taichi saves the day. Taichi gets all the evolutions. Taichi never grows as a character. He just throws himself headlong into things until the Digivice gives him an evolution, until it doesn't evolve. Um, it's it's so lacking. It's just fight after fight after fight. And when it does do episodes that are character based, like Soaring Hope, where the whole thing with Patamon not being able to evolve into Angemon anymore, so his he learns to evolve into Pegasmon. Really good. That's a really good episode. The episodes where the following two episodes where Hikari and Tailmon learn to work together because Tailmon is she's suffering post-traumatic stress disorder from her time as Dark Knightmon, that she has to sort of learn how to work as part of a team and work with her partner rather than just working with her partner rather than working for her partner, if that makes sense. And that when they do those episodes, they're really good, but that's not what the show is about. The show is about fight after fight after fight after fight. The show built Devimon up, right? We all remember Devimon, the first 13 episodes of Digimon Adventure 99, right? This show built Devimon up as something to be, they kept him in the, maybe not to be feared, but certainly to be cautious about and to worry that he was always in the background. Sort of like Bagramon in Cross Wars. Someday this cold will go away. So yeah, sort of like Bagramon in Cross Wars. Devimon is like just he's lurking in the background. He's waving his hands, all these machinations. He's moving the chess pieces across the board to stop the Digidestined in their tracks. And then, when the group finally faces him, uh, it's only 3 out of the 7 or 8. Um, it's the three that get to face off against Devimon are Taichi, Yamato, and Takaru. And Takaru doesn't even have a partner that can evolve to fight yet. He still has Tokomon, or Poyomon even, not even Tokomon. We don't get Tokomon until like the end of the episode of the little or at the end of the battle. So realistically, it's only Taichi and Yamato who can evolve to perfect level with an upgrade at the moment. So they have Metal Greymon and they have Wergurumon, but they can upgrade to Alterus mode and Sagittarius mode. But so it's only Tai and Matt that get to fight against Devimon. And then Yamato gets taken out of it as Devimon evolves. And Devimon evolving should be a big deal. And it's treated as such the first time. And then he evolves again. And he loses his damn mind. He just becomes Venom Vamdemon. A mindless beast that just destroys. There's no class, there's no dignity. He's just Venom Vamdemon in a Devimon skin. And then he eats Taichi. Straight up eats him, which is what triggers the evolution from Metal Greymon to Machine Dramon, because Metal Greymon loses his mind at the prospect of his partner being eaten. You know, fine. But then, through the power of telepathy, Angemon frees Agumon from Machine Dramon's control. Agumon becomes like this glowy version of War Greymon and destroys the mega level Don Devimon and saves Taichi. And that's it. That's how Devimon is treated. They build him up for so long, and they make him this great, seemingly anyway, this seemingly great tactician and chess master who's moving the pieces, as he dictates. Reminded me kind of Leviathan in Applemon. And then they just turn him into Venom Vamdemon, and they basically get rid of him the same way. And after that, nothing else has mattered. Sure, Millenniumon's in the show, and the kids are going to have to fight Millenniumon, and we're probably going to get Omegamon Alter S in the show. But there's nothing of substance. I don't know, aside from Mimi, I don't know anything about these characters that I didn't know when the show started, or that I couldn't infer from their dialogue and actions. When Koshiro talks about how he was always alone, in the episode where Taichi gets to evolve in an episode about Koshiro, it was nothing that took me out of it was no new character revelation there that I couldn't infer already from how he had spoken previously. Mimi is the only one that ever seems to grow whenever she's on screen. We learn more about her family and the respect she has for her grandfather and the company that she runs, and that her grandfather runs. That she's probably in line to take over. Let's be fair, which would be great. It would certainly be different from fashionista cooking show Mimi on the original timeline. Like this version of Mimi running a tech company. That's kind of baller. Not gonna lie. But this show is Bayonetta. In like the plot is kind of there, and it's very minimal. But what you're actually here for is the spectacle of the big fight scenes. Right? Nobody cares about the story in Bayonetta. You're there for the giant angel and demon fights and the manic stages and all that, right? And just the chaos of it all. And that's what Adventure 2020 is. It's Bayonetta. It's all style. There's no substance. Nothing sticks with you. I genuinely don't believe that Adventure 2020 is going to be held in the same regard as Adventure 99 20 years from now. And I've said that before. I don't think this show has enough going for it that people are going to go, oh yeah, that one, yeah, that was amazing, to the level that my generation holds Adventure 99 up to. Now, a lot more of my generation hold it to a higher standard than I do, as seen by this tier listing. But I don't know if and again, look, we'll keep an eye on it in 2041, but I don't think Adventure 2020 is going to be remembered in the same vein as Adventure 99 and Adventure 02, because there's nothing to remember. It's all just fights and flashing lights. There's no depth to any of it. But look, maybe I'm wrong. I ran a poll through straw poll. Let's have a look and see how we're getting on with that, shall we? While I'm recording. So let's have a look at these results. I wanted to run this poll through YouTube, but YouTube only gives you 5 options, and clearly there's a lot more than that. So I had to go through straw poll for this. So let's see. So currently, out of 74 votes at time of recording, Adventure 99 has 19. Adventure 2020, sorry, Tamers has 15, and Adventure 2020 has 14 votes out of that 74. Then it's Adventure 02 with 8, Frontier with 5, Savers with 4, Cross Wars Seasons 1 and 2 combined with 3, Applemon with 3, Try with 3, and Young Hunters with 0. So, am I so out of touch? Am I looking at Adventure 20 through the completely wrong light? No, no, it's the kids who are wrong. Obviously. Sorry, Simpsons meme. Couldn't resist. But yeah, so following on from that, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you make of my listing, my reasoning? I'll include a link to this tier list down below. Again, I had to make this one myself because none of them were really up to date. Um, so I'll include this in the link below. Feel free to make your own listing, and let's have a chat about it in the comments. So till next time, guys, hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're made aware of when new content goes live. Comment below. I'd love to have a chat with you about this, and yeah, just look after yourself. So take care. Bye bye.